What's up players, XHG, and today we are back with some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. And also into this video I thought it could be fun to make a Banlist prediction video, so it's two videos in one. So yeah, let's just get started. I'm going to play, continue the playthrough and talk about some of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards that I want to see on the Banlist and also some of the cards that I want to get limited and stuff like that. So let's just get started. So first of all, the first card on my list is Pot of Prosperity. A lot of people might just think that this card is not that it's not a card that should be banned, and I will say that is true. Prosp is not a card that should be banned, but something that I'm thinking about is how the format would look if this card was semi-limited, and that is a thought that has been going on a little bit, because a lot of people are actually, something that I've been thinking about is a lot of people actually, despite the card is at 3, a lot of people are actually only playing it at 2, which makes me think why don't put it at 2 then? But again, it doesn't make that much sense. So Prosperity is definitely not a card that should be hit on the ban list in general and overall, so let's just move on to the next one. Dimension Shifter. Shifter is a card that can mess with some decks, a lot of decks actually. There's actually only a few decks that can play on the Shifter. If it's a blind going second deck, or if it's a deck that really can play on the Shifter. I will say right now how the format is. If it's going to change, of course, I will change my mind about it. But I will say right now, Shifter is a fine card, especially against decks like not branded. They can play under it, of course, but branded will still suffer a little bit. But Snake Eyes, really utilize the graveyard a lot, I will say. So having Shifter 3 is fine right now. If the format is going to change, as it will eventually, Shifter might be a card that should be banned. But right now I will say the card should not be hit. Next up we have Branded Fusion. Branded has been in the format for a very long time. Every ban list it has not been hit, because a lot of other problematic cards has been hit. And I will say a card like Branded Fusion, it could be fun to actually see how it would change the branded archetype if this card got limited. And that is just a funny thought that I had. It's nothing serious, of course, because I also love to play branded every here now and then. But there's still some cards in the branded archetype that I'm going to talk about in this on this list. And let us just move on to the next one, which is basically Albion the Sanctuary Dragon. A lot of people are saying that this card should be banned because of the gimmick puppet lock that it can make. But I also had the thoughts that this card is not the problem in general. It's more like the targets for it. But of course, this card might be banned because Branded Expulsion was a card back in the day that did the exact same thing as Albion is doing right now. So yeah, I will say if these should hit something in this direction, banning Albion could potentially resolve the entire problem. I'm not going to say that it will solve the entire problem, but I will say that it might resolve the entire problem. Next up we have Skill Drain. I will say this card should be limited, just like Anti-Spell and Rivalry and Ghost Match and all of those floodgates. I will say Skill Drain is a really annoying card to go against most of the times, especially in decks like Runic Stun and also Horror Stun right now in the format. So that is something that I personally think should be banned. Or not banned, limited, sorry. Next up we have Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess. Appaloosa is a card that I will say should be hit on the ban list, should be banned right now. Because there's so many decks that is taking advantage of this card. Just like Baron de Fleur and Borrowed Savage Dragon was taking advantages of, I will say this card should be the next one on the list. Because, just like Baron de Fleur, decks like Snake Eyes really has the combos to just go into Appaloosa really easily. So yeah. And I'm not saying this because I'm salty about Appaloosa. I have a lot of decks also where I play Appaloosa in. But I would say that for the format's benefits and becoming more healthy, I will say that Appaloosa should be hit on the ban list. Next up, we have two cards that I'm just going to talk quickly about, and that is SP Little Knight and IP Masquerena. SP Little Knight is a card that I think should not be hit at all, because a lot of people in the TCG is not playing more than just one. If you're playing two, it's because that first of all you have a ton of money and you are just a douchebag, I will say, for just spending so much money on cardboard. But second of all, I will say that if you're playing two, it is because that first of all you're scared of Typhon, and second of all, yeah, you just need a second one. I don't know why. And next, and the other card, IP Masquerena, I will say this card should not be hit either. SP and IP is two cards that should just be right now as it is. Next off, I have two more cards that I'm going to talk about, and that is Wandered Seeker of Sinful Spoils and the Abelstar, the Dark Witch, or Black Witch, what the card is. I believe it's Dark Witch. Don't question me on that. These cards are a little bit similar to SP and IP, because I will say that these cards should not be hit on the ban list. It's not because they are not annoying to go against, but I will say most of the Snake Eyes strategy is not these cards. And also this strategy can be used in a lot of other strategies. Of course it is mostly fire strategies, but you could potentially, if you are playing Volcanic Snake Eyes, I know a guy, one of my friends, he has just built a Volcanic Snake Eyes deck in Master Duel. So yeah, that is a strategy that could be used there. Of course, Volcanics is another really cool archetype. And I will say that I would love to see strategies get combined that wasn't or normally meant to be combined, just like Volcanic Snake Eyes weren't. Next up, we are starting on the Snake Eyes cards, and the first one is Snake Eyes Ash. I will say Ash, the best benefits of this would probably be of limiting this card to one. It will not kill the deck entirely, but I will also say that it will also hurt the deck a lot, because Snake Eyes Ash can actually just search Snake Eyes Ash. So yeah, that is what I a little bit hate about the entire strategy, that you can just search the same card. Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the day weren't like this, I promise you. Either you had the strongest monster, or either you had the I can talk now, the smartest strategy. And I will say the smart strategy doesn't involve that you're searching the exact same card with the card that you're just activating. But yeah, I don't know if it's me just being a grumpy old school player, but yeah. Next up we have Snake Eyes Poplar. Poplar is also a card that I will say it is not the problem of the entire strategy, but I will say that Poplar should actually not be hit. Poplar is not the problem in the entire strategy. It is Ash and another card that I'm talking about in a second. But yeah, I will say right now, my opinion, Poplar is not the problem. I'm talking about the other problem is Snake Eyes Flame Birch Dragon. Flame Birch Dragon is a really annoying card to go against sometimes. A lot of people, when you're playing against Snake Eyes, you're only playing 2 copies of this card, which is it does make sense because you will not break, you don't want to break with the 3rd copy. But I will say if Konami would limit this card to 1 as well as Snake Eyes Ash, the Snake Eyes strategy would definitely be looking a little bit different, or maybe a lot more different. It depends a lot on how you're looking at it. But yeah, I will say if these two cards got limited to one, I would be perfectly fine, because I will say that Snake Eyes is a really annoying deck. It is still one of the few decks that and now I'm not going to talk salty about anything, but I will say and a lot of people out there already know that. But my favorite deck of all time is Black Wings, and I play that deck 24/7 actually. And that might also be the reason for why a lot of people are unsubbing to the channel, because that I don't make deck profiles that often. But again, it is really hard to make deck profiles when you don't really want to play anything else. Of course, I have a Senpai Dragon deck, and I've become really good with that strategy. So maybe I will be playing that a little bit, but I will never actually just dump Black Wings as a deck. I will never do that. That was a little sidetrack that we just went on. Next up we have a trap card that is actually banned, and that is Red Reboot. I will say this card it would be fun to actually see this card back at 1, because you can negate the activations and effect of the opponent's trap card, and yeah, then you allow your opponent to actually just set another one from their deck. But I will say if your opponent is activating a card like, let's just go straight to the Labyrinth players. If they are activating a card like Big Welcome Labyrinth and you're negating that, they can just set Welcome Labyrinth. But again, then you have actually negated the effect and the summon of a monster, which means that you have actually stopped an entire turn. I don't know. In some perspective. But I would say having Red Reboot back at 1 would definitely be interesting. I will say that. Next up we have Striker Dragon, a card that is limited at 1, and I would say having this card is at 1, it's fine. For me, I would say having this card at 1 is fine. It doesn't change the format that much anymore. Dragon Link players is something that is slowly dying out, and a lot of people are not playing Dragon Link anymore that much more. Most people are playing Bestials. That was also the key element to Dragon Links, I would say, alongside with Chaos Form and stuff like that. But yeah. Next up we have the Hot Red Dragon Arch-themed King Calamity. And I would say this card is the most decks that this card actually sees placed in is in Centurion. And I would say this card should definitely be banned, because there's nothing funny, and also I'm going to talk about another card in a second as well. That you guys might already have guessed when I'm saying the next line here. But there's nothing funny about when you're just locking your opponent out of their plays. Because that means that they have two choices. Either they can just try to play through whatever you're locking them with. King Calamity negates all of the effects on the field, if I remember correctly. So you can still activate cards and effects in your hand. But the problem is that once you're doing that, you are basically just going to lose the entirety of your strategy to King Calamity or the next card I'm going to talk about, which is Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, if I remember correctly. Gimmick Puppet is most known for the Gimmick Puppet lock that you can make with Albion, the Sanctified Dragon. And to talk a little bit about the Albion card, I will say that Albion might be the card that should be banned. Because Gimmick Puppet is basically just like Ross Disciple or um, what's it called? Ross Disciple or Nightmare Corruptably. I know those two cards has no relation to each other, except for kind of the effect that you cannot special summon except for a specific type of card or not at all. And that is exactly the same strategy with the Gimmick Puppet monster. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except for Gimmick Puppet. Well, excuse me, guys. Except for if you are playing Gimmick Puppet yourself, this could potentially be one of the worst strategies to go against. Except for if you're playing Florandries. Because when your opponent is going all this out, now you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn. Normal summon Rupina effect. Ah, shucks. That might be the only strategy right now in the format, the only relevant strategy that can play on the Gimmick Puppet. Because I don't know if any other is going to play under that, but I don't think so. Next card is the Telemans Kid Killers. Kid Killers was banned for a reason, I believe. I can't remember. But I remember that I was playing a tournament where the only players that wasn't playing Telemans was me and 4 other people. The rest of the people at that tournament was playing Telemans. And the other decks were basically just Dark Worlds, and then it was me with my Black Wings. Not what the Black Wings are today, because Black Wings is a lot more serious, I will say. If you just know the strategies. Basically. Next up we have Castira Fenrir. I will say putting this card as at 2 would actually be funny to see. And that is actually everything that I have to say about it. I don't think that this card should be banned. So yeah. Next up we have Eradicator. The virus card that allows you to negate spells and traps. I will say this card is fine. Still fine in this format because of Labyrinth. And could potentially also be a threat to Snake Eyes because of the spell cards. Next up, I have Kashtira Arisehard. Arisehard was actually banned after, what is it called? The Mindhacker card, the number 89, or what it was called. And I will say, putting Arisehard back would not be the best thing right now, but I will also say that if you're putting this card back at 1, well, it could be a fun format, but then I just feel like that Kashtira will take over again, so please don't do that, Konami. Next up we have the Promethean Princess, the Bestower of Flames. I will say this card doesn't do anything in this format. Of course, it is part of the Salamangreat FTK, where you basically take this card alongside with Salamangreat Raging Phoenix, and just making an OTK, which a deck like Tenpai Dragon today is taking a little bit of advantage of. But I will say that Promethean Princess is a really good card in any fire deck. Not just only Snake Eyes, but we have decks like Volcanic as well again. So I will say having this card at 3, it's fine right now. It's not completely overpowered, but it's not that bad again. Next up we have some of the newer cards, which is Sangan Kaiman and Sangan Summoning. I'm taking these two cards together because they have a big relation to each other, because it is the same archetype. These cards should just be where they are right now, at 3, because Tenpai Dragon is getting support in the Infinite Forbidden, the next set that will be released in July month. So I will say these cards should not be hit on the ban list. And again, I don't know when the ban list is going to drop. But yeah, I don't know. Next up we have the Ostinato, which is the melodious fusion spell. I will say this card, it's fine, nothing there. Having this card at 3, I believe, yeah, it is at 3 still. It's not that. Yeah, now just lost all my words. I don't know why. Ostinato is not a bad card, but I will say that it doesn't really deserve to be banned right now. It is part of the melodious strategy, but and could potentially be a part of the branded strategy as well, and different kind of things like voiceless voice. But yeah, I would say it doesn't deserve to be banned. Not yet. And next up we have Drawn Lockbird. I would say Drawn Lockbird is not a card that should be hit on the ban list as well. It is really good, and yeah, of course it is annoying sometimes when you're playing against it and they just throw a Drawn Lockbird in your head. But I will say that Drawn Lockbird is not a card that should be banned right now. It's not one of the main hits. But yeah. Next up we have Prank Hits Meow Meow Mew. I will say putting this back at 1 is definitely something that Konami should be thinking about. Because of, yeah. Prank Hits is a deck, so yeah. That is something that they should be thinking about. And yeah, the next off card we have that is the last card again that I'm going to talk about is Heavy Storm. Putting this card back at 1 would be fun to see. And I'm just saying this because that I'm an old school player. It would definitely be fun to see. So yeah. That was actually the list, guys. If there's any cards that I should be talking about in a future video, future Banlist video, let me know. I will say that I've actually covered the most topics in this video. We have cards like the King Calamity, the Snake Eyes archetype, the branded archetype, and stuff like that. If there were any cards that I would have thoughts about, it would definitely be the I can't remember now. Of course I can't. I will say this list is definitely something that I probably would be expecting to happen to the Yu-Gi-Oh format. I'm just searching quickly on what other people are talking about. What other topics that people will be talking about. And I'm just cutting off the sound, so yeah, first of all, you will not be hearing another guy. But yeah, I can just make a shout out quickly. The channel that I'm been looking at is Galzo, so shout out to him for just letting me quickly talk about the topics. He is talking about in this video, he is talking about a card like Forbidden Droplet, and I would say Forbidden Droplet right now is fine right now to have. But he's also talking about bringing cards like Borderload, Savage Dragon, and Link Revo back to the format. I would say bringing Borderload, Savage Dragon back is something that I would consider as correct. Link Revo, yeah, I don't know yet. Of course, it's not only good in Snake Eyes, but yeah, I don't know. It is still a fine card. He's also talking about Strike Dragon that I also talked about a little bit. I will say it's fine at 1. He's talking about banning Magnamut. I will say, nah, it's not the... So yeah. He's talking about chicken game going to free. I agree on that. Nobody is using that. But yeah, guys. There's a lot of different Banlist predictions. He's talking about skill drain going to 1 like I did. So that just proves that Yu-Gi-Oh players have the same thoughts sometimes. So yeah, now I just spent almost 30 minutes talking about a Banlist prediction video. I'm just quickly going through his video here. He also talks about Shifter going down at 1, Crossout Detonator going to 1, Maxi. Yeah, I don't know. That could actually be crazy. Maxi back at 1 and everybody's using that, and Crossout Detonator is the next best card. That would actually be crazy, guys. That would actually be crazy. Banning Shifter is something that I think also could happen one day. He talks about it in his video as well. But yeah, guys. Yeah, that was basically just my Banlist prediction video. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, I don't know what I'm going to expect of the next Banlist. It will be July, August, I think. And now I'm just using all my gems and stupid stuff. But yeah, guys, that was everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll just see each other next time. Peace.